Multiband compressors. I love them. However, in this video, I want to shed some light on 5 common mistakes that people do when they work with multiband compressors that can easily destroy an otherwise good mix. So grab a cup of tea or coffee and let's talk about audio for a bit. Have you ever thought about this, that EQs and compressors are actually quite similar? Both are level controls. The only big difference is that a compressor is automatic while an EQ is not automatic, and an EQ on the other hand is divided into different bands, and multiband compressors is where compressors and EQs meet, because a multiband compressor is automatic like a compressor and is divided into bands like an EQ. So yeah, mistake number 1 is failing to understand that a multiband compressor also is an EQ. A lot of new engineers and producers tend to approach mixing in almost a backwards way. It's a bit like grabbing a hammer and then walking around the house looking for things to use it on. And that will probably end up pretty badly, because you'll look for things to hammer on and you might destroy something in the making. And the same thing applies to mixing in general, and especially multiband compression. It's really important to have a clear goal and purpose before adding one to anything. A multiband compressor works by dividing the audio into different bands, and that in itself can introduce a lot of risks and unwanted effects, such as phasing or distortion. So it's really important to be extra careful when applying multiband compression and not going too heavy on it. Because just like any other EQ, it has the power to really fundamentally change the sound and leave it sounding flat and phasey. Before moving on, I wanted to do a little fun quiz with you guys. So if you know the right answer, just leave a comment below, and if you get it right, I'll send you a free copy of my latest ebook,
Mixing Philosophy.
So here's the question. Multiband compressors and EQs are fairly similar, but there are a few differences. Do you know what they are? And all you have to do is to give one right answer here, and I'll send you your ebook. I think one of the hardest parts with using a multiband compressor is knowing where to put the split points, because usually you have around 4 or 5 different areas, and it's up to you to choose where you want them to begin and end. I personally only work with multiband compressors that have a good visual representation of the audio, because then you can easily see where the different groups are within the audio, and every sound is different. That's very important to point out. You need to look at the sound you're working with and identify areas within that audio. For example, down here, the low end is pretty clearly divided from the low mids, so I can put my crossover point here, and then you can put another one up here, because it looks like this area to me sort of belongs together. A lot of beginners fall into the trap of using presets when working with multiband compression, and I would strongly recommend not doing it at the start. I think it's okay to use presets later on when you have sort of mastered the art of mixing and you know what's happening behind the scenes. But until then, I really recommend always doing everything manually and treating every song and every sound in a custom way. Because in that way you will learn faster, but also there's a massive risk with using presets if you don't know what's going on in that preset. But